silent no more. I'm done fighting this war. What I feel in weakness is something worth fighting for. Silent no more. I'm unlocking the door. If strength is being honest, then I'm stronger than before.
All right, let's do it. Welcome back to the Narcissist Series. Tonight we're talking about something many people experience but struggle to explain. It's the moment you realize somehow everything became your fault. Their anger, your fault. Their cheating, your fault. Their unhappiness, your fault. Tonight we're talking about how that happens and what it does to a person. Elena, when you hear the phrase everything became my fault, what comes to mind?
My marriage.
Okay.
Oh gosh. What comes to mind is honestly the constant need to apologize. It's still a habit that I have today. I still over apologize. I always am feeling like it's my fault. So when I think everything became my fault, that's the first thing that shows up for me is I'm always apologizing. And sometimes I don't even know why or what for. It's just habit. But also always feeling like everything, everything relies on me. If something goes wrong, even if it had nothing to do with me, I still feel like it's my fault. I don't know. In my marriage, I just always felt like I was in trouble. That's it. And it's just crazy. So I don't even know how that happens. Like what about you? What's your take on that?
So I was at a men's gathering last week, and I was speaking to about 7 to 12 different gentlemen, and we were talking about the same thing, and they were saying that it felt like how nothing they can do. It seems like nothing they can do could be right.
Mhm.
It's like every time they did something, it was wrong. But one of the things I had asked, at least two of them,
Mhm.
was if somebody's telling you that, or if you feel like something that you're doing is always wrong, what's the barometer, right? What's the checks and balances,
Mhm.
other than somebody's personal experience or personal perspective of telling you, how they felt about you, and then you felt like you were wrong, because that could also be a case of self-sabotage. So if
Mhm.
there's no way to kind of checks and balances to look at it and say, you know what exactly went wrong? And then you go look at, okay, so there was an actual activity, an objective, or something along those lines where it didn't necessarily go right. And it could be something, especially if you're talking about a relationship, as a road
Mhm.
trip. It starts out like you didn't pack the damn sandwiches. You know what I mean? It can be something as simple as that, and then it can, and then if you're feeling attacked and you don't want to respond, you could, the natural thing would be, well, did we even talk about the sandwiches?
Yeah.
Right? Or is it
It's never
just
just about the sandwiches, right?
right,
So yeah.
right,
Mhm.
right? So that's some of the things that we talked about last week was, just maybe stopping for a moment and just thinking like, wait, what's going on?
Mhm.
Recalibrating and trying to figure out, is this the real issue or is this the real problem, versus taking it personal and internalizing it and saying,
Right.
okay, here we go again. Woe is me. I
Mhm.
can't do anything right.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a breakdown, that barrier, the whole thing about communication. So maybe we're just not communicating right.
Yeah. So that makes me think like in my relationship, my one marriage that just it was not healthy whatsoever. But I think about that, and that wasn't even a circumstance where communication was welcomed. I mean, in the beginning, like I'm gonna get sidetracked so we can paint a picture right here.
Go ahead. Go
But
ahead.
but in the beginning, okay, there was a birthday party. I surprised him with a birthday party, and he honestly didn't have like a lot of friends, but I had it at his sister's house. I called some people up. I surprised him. You know, I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I got food catered. Like I did everything that I thought was like, let's bring some family together. Let's celebrate your birthday. And after the fact, he was mad at me that not that many people showed up.
Right.
And so I'm apologizing and I'm thinking, you know, so sometimes always feeling like, oh gosh, did I do a good job? Was some things they're just never going to be happy, but I still apologized. So in certain cases, like when I look at my circumstance, communication was like not even a thing. So I don't know. I don't know how we get around that, because there was really nothing to evaluate. And that's not exaggerating.
Can we use your example and
Yeah.
kind of expound on it a little bit, just for like scenario purposes?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for the list, for viewers, for sure.
So when you the first thing you said was right? I thought I did this, I did those things. So and I'm not speaking on behalf, because by no means do I even know what the situation or scenario was.
Yeah.
Just going off of the information. So if you say you thought versus we had a conversation about, I went to do these things, maybe I had a conversation and discovered some of the things that he didn't like, and then based the plan kind of around that. Because a lot of times, sometimes we can be with somebody for so long, and again, because everybody's not perfect at communication,
right?
And we all change, and sometimes people's likes can change because of their interactions. They can go to a different place and have a different experience, and now they got new hey Julie, how you doing? Now they got new beginnings, right? And new things to kind of, a new barometer, something different to mark off of. But if you're still going off of something maybe previously that you maybe, and I say you, not saying you personally, but the person that's planning, going off of something that maybe old information that they thought was still relevant, right? Because life happens. And with us not being necessarily so great at communicating, maybe sometimes, and I'm just speaking now from the male perspective at that point, might not have communicated the changes and the different things that happen, and you were still going off of old information and planning. And then that communication breakdown is you went through all that hard work to plan those things, then the lack of appreciation, right? You're like, I'm trying to hear that shit. Yeah, I did all this stuff. And you still not happy? So everybody's on the defensive, you know what I mean? Nobody's trying to communicate. And maybe a missed opportunity. So I'm not saying that was exactly what happened, but just in talking and in hindsight, thinking about different things as we learn, think about.
It's great. I mean, this is why we're having these discussions. So when the viewers, if they're in a situation, maybe opening up communication, in a different way is the thing. So I'm all for it, looking at every angle. I mean, I love the insight that you give from that perspective, because when that's not your expertise and you're just kind of like in this space, you feel like you're in a tornado thinking like, what did I just do? What did I just say that now has us like fighting and spinning and ignoring each other? Like it's horrible. So by all means, keep bringing the perspective so we can learn.
No, absolutely. And just because of one, you said tornado, and two, I'm wearing this hat. I just want to stop and say, to the folks out in Texas, San Antonio, Kerrville, Uvalde, that's going through some things out there with the tornado touching down. I wanted to, show my, gratitude in Texas by supporting and wearing my hat. And then you mentioned tornado. So just the power of words, everything just kind of started jumping off screen. And then, so nobody enters a relationship saying they want to blame themselves for everything, but it slowly starts to happen. And we just kind of uncovered a few things by not having that conversation and saying that these are some factors that could come up and we don't necessarily communicate them. Do you think, and I'm asking, and then, obviously you get your turn to ask me back, but going through situations like that, is it manipulation? Is it survival? Um, what is it, and how do we identify with it, right? Because sometimes you could be in the relationship and there's different ways of being manipulated. People can say you can't go see other people, of the opposite gender. You can't go see other people because we don't share similar ideologies, different things of that nature. So what's a way to kind of identify with it when it happens kind of slowly in real time?
Well, I will say that for me, I made the conscious choice to get into a relationship that I knew was not healthy.
What?
So
Tell me about that. That's crazy. That sounds kind of crazy.
so
Can't get mad about it. That's kind of crazy. Talk to me.
yeah, I mean, so for people that, sometimes wonder, like, how did I get in a relationship that was so emotional abusive and things like that? I understand now how it happened. And so there's a point where we do have to take responsibility. It's not, the treatment and the behaviors within it. Yes, that goes both ways. But at some point, I knew what was going on, and I still got drawn into it. So and I'm not sure if we would have talked about this before, but I knew him from like kindergarten. Like, I knew his whole family. He was very safe. I always had a crush on him, kind of all of that. When my dad died of cancer, he texted and was the only one that really reached out in that most vulnerable time in my life. And emotionally, now I can look back at losing my dad, and I reverted back to that 8-year-old little girl who lost her dad when he left at one time. So I had been through a divorce. I had been divorced for a little while, had my 2 sons, watched my dad die very suddenly, was at the funeral by myself. I mean, family was there, but I didn't have someone there for me. So I was sitting in the back seat of the truck while everybody's still out there hugging each other and all these things. And he texted me right at that time. And I'm like, that was my sign from God. Like, oh my gosh, but he was going through a divorce. And very quickly,
Trauma bomb.
it just got nasty, and like nasty. And but I didn't even have the emotional strength. Like, I didn't even care. To me, it was just somebody that was there that could keep me company. So I saw it, but he also saw that this was an opportunity where me, my powerhouse, my strong, business owner, I was broken already. And that was just the prime time to come in and
Be
kind
the
of,
hero.
yeah. And then when I got brave enough to say this really is not healthy, then that's when he threatened to commit suicide if I ever left, and it just
That's when
spiraled.
the
Like,
manipulation came into play, trying to
yeah,
make sure that they can
yeah,
control the motive and the narrative
yeah,
and everything else.
yeah.
So, can I'm just going to ask you another question, because you said that he saw. What makes you think he saw? Because you said that kind of like with conviction, like he saw you being at a vulnerable moment and kind of preyed on you. What makes you, feel, the certainty that he saw that?
Because I was very open and honest with him. He asked me a lot of questions, and I was very honest, that I was grateful that he thought of me. He was on a hunting trip, so I was like very grateful that he thought of me while he was,
Literally or figuratively?
like, for real. He was with the guys hunting, shooting. And that's where the suicide thing came up, because
Okay.
he was
Okay.
always with guns. Okay. But
Okay.
anyway, so, very quickly, because I trusted him. So he asked a lot of questions, and, I shared my fears, being alone and just all the stuff. And so, there was one instance years prior that he asked me out and I turned him down. And I really feel like it was more of I got you now, but now you're going to pay. I really do. And some people that knew him kind of feel that too, of how quickly, how, like, really how bad he just treated me. But I stayed. Like I went into it and I stayed. So yeah. So let's talk about you for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead. Do your thing. Shift the conversation. Make it a little bit lighter. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because it was all my fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I mean, honestly, like from the male perspective, because I love that you talk on this topic from the male perspective. Because let's be honest, women throw this word out there a lot. Like women, like anytime somebody's just a jerk or an asshole, they're a narcissist. And I think we overuse the word that it's actually losing its impact, because it's for real. It's for real. So for you, like from the male perspective, does it work the same way? Like, do men find themselves apologizing all the time? Do men find themselves feeling like they're always doing something wrong? I mean, how is it from that side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, right? So definitely from the men's perspective, you do find yourself kind of transitioning from the conversation we had before, walking on eggshells, is because it's a double-edged sword. It's twofold. Right now, we're talking about men suffering in silence, and then at the same time, we're talking about men being labeled as being loud, boisterous, obnoxious, and demanding, and whatever the case may be. And we're in a time right now where just trying to have a casual conversation is difficult. They've made it so difficult. It's so competitive. Just look at the job market. The job market is so competitive. You talk about and one of the things I like to talk about is expectation management, is the qualifications and things that you have to have. But now, not only do you have to have the qualifications and the sliders for the job, you also have to have the ones for the particular women that are out there who have now made it to a point in their life where they're and every right to do so, but they're happy about their careers. They're happy about their educations. They're happy about all these different, accolades and achievements that they have had. But it seems like the sliders are changing, right? Things are getting harder for the men. We're championing and we're saluting the women, but then the men are starting to get left behind because they were grouped in being, like you said earlier, assholes and labeled as certain things. And as this whole mental health thing kind of kicked in a few years back behind the Me Too movement, people tried to figure out, like, what the hell is actually going on? What's the problem? And then as men tried to figure out what was going on and maybe to how to tone it down and take it down a notch, then you have the movement where women are now running around talking about big penis energy, all these other things. So the roles are reversing. The dynamics are shifting. Yeah. The women are making more money in the jobs. They're going farther and getting their doctorate degrees and these different type of things in school. And then the roles have changed, but how the men used to uplift and try to carry it. And I'm not saying all, because somebody can easily just jump online and say, not all men are like that. Not everybody's doing that. So we're talking obviously about the people that are good humans and trying to help people out there.
Yeah.
And so now you don't necessarily have the same thing that's happening, because the men are helping the women to push them forward and move them forward, but then the women are forgetting to realize the other things and the tangibles that comes along with it. And then that's when the disconnect starts to come into play.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it needs to be discussed, and it needs to be discussed without people getting defensive, because I held so much trauma, and I'm a conflict avoider. Like, I don't like conflict. I don't like to be in trouble. I don't like to feel like I'm letting anybody down. Those are things that I deal with. And so I would just go defensive, or then I would shut down. And so nothing gets resolved there either. But I think that by doing things like this and having conversations like this and just being honest about things like that, we need to like open this up, because it is ruining relationships. It is ruining like friendships. Like, it is not healthy for us to sit in this space and not be okay to talk about it. We'll never heal it if we don't talk about it. So
No, definitely you have to talk about it. And like Julie mentioned, there's very specific characteristics, you know,
yes.
of the NPD. But what happens is nowadays you find that a lot of people don't necessarily really have a true identity of who they are, so they kind of take bits and pieces from other people. So they might not necessarily fit the entire characteristics of the narcissistic personality disorder. They might fit some characteristics of psychopath, you know, or, you know, antisocial or sociopaths, of all those different things together, and not really, they're hybrid. You don't really have a true definition of what people are, because so many people are trying not to be who they are.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. You can't identify half of it, because so many people are pretending to be somebody else. They don't know who the hell they actually are at the core. And that's the problem, that you can't have a relationship with somebody who's pretending to be somebody else. Because who the hell were you in this relationship with for all these years if this person was pretending to be somebody else? So, you know what I mean?
And sometimes you don't even know what comes up until something triggers something that you didn't even know was still like packed in there. So for example, for me, you know, after my husband died and I spent, you know, 5 years just kind of like, I remember when God said, like, you will be married again. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell. Like, then I got some healing to do. I got a lot of work to do, because I thought I was so traumatized from that whole experience. But so every time I would like think I was healing and getting to another place, and then I would start like maybe talking to somebody or wanting to get to know somebody, you don't know what is still left to be healed until something hits another level or brings something up. And then it's like, oh, now I got to work through this. But to me, I don't think that you can identify those things unless you actually put yourself back in certain situations, because how else would the experience come up? It wouldn't. So, you know, I think people need to
hold on. Let me get in there. Because I disagree with you.
Okay.
You know that you still need healing, and you need to go through some forms of trauma resolvement if you're expecting the next person you're in a relationship with to accommodate faults or defaults from your previous relationship. That means you haven't healed from that, because every time
I don't think accommodate. I'm saying
wait. Because if you're meeting somebody and you're still talking about something from the previous relationship, that means you haven't healed from it. Because if you've gotten over it, that means, okay, I've identified what the problem was, identified how a solution for it, and we just won't have that again. The next time I encounter that problem, this is how I'll react. I'll pivot left or right. But if you're already going into not even a relationship, but just meeting somebody, and you have preventive measures and operational risk management already set up prior to going into that relationship, then you haven't healed from it. You're already trying to prevent yourself from something that you don't even know that person's not even aware of what you're trying to prevent yourself from. So you're trying to prevent yourself from something, and you're not even giving that person a fair opportunity in that relationship.
Right. But my thing was, like, until like something pops up, like, you might not even know that there's still something in there until.
No, you missing what I'm saying. Before you even go into the relationship, if you have a checklist, people say you have to meet these criteria. Now you go online, it's an online dating thing. You have to put a description or whatever it is on there. And then you'll see people say, I don't want to talk to you if you got X, Y, and Z. I don't want to talk to you if you're not healed. You're already saying, I'm not saying you personally, I'm just using that example. If you're saying those type of things, that means you haven't gotten over whatever your issue or your relationship is. You're trying to prevent that into the next relationship. You're already trying to prevent that. You now that's the narcissistic tendencies or personalities. Because again, you have to be careful on how you saying, you know, people have they're narcissists and all this stuff, because some people just have the tendencies, but not necessarily diagnosed with it.
Right.
So, but them trying to control that by you not haven't even met that person or got into a relationship yet, that's saying that you have unresolved traumas that you're trying to prevent or triggers to happen that haven't even presented themselves.
Got it. Yeah. I get it. I get where you're coming from. I think for me, it was more of like thinking I was healed, like not having checklist. I still don't have a checklist,
Right.
But until like things could be great, I'm still nice. We're meeting, we're talking, but then something would come up
Absolutely.
That told me like, whoa, girl, you're not as healed as you thought. So I would be honest in that point and be like, I obviously still have some more work to do. You don't want, like, we're not going to, I knew that I couldn't go any further until I came back, but I didn't even know until you get to a certain point.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. That's my whole point. So that's the hard part. Like you can say like, okay, I've done this healing. I've got this done. Now I'm ready. But there's certain times where something may be still in there that you didn't even know where it was hiding or tucked away from, but something will expose it. And to me, I think you owe it to yourself at that time to look at it and work through it instead of start making that like putting that on somebody else, because it's not somebody else's problem. And I think that's what we don't do enough of is being honest that we need more help. We need more healing. And there are times where it's like, you might think you're ready for a relationship, but maybe not, because it might not be the best thing for the partner if you're still, dealing with all of this. And my whole point was like, for me, I didn't even know that there was still more until I started talking with people. And then it was like, oh shit, I need to pull back because I'm not ready. and I'm not going to, like, I don't want to be this person with somebody else. They deserve the healed, better version of me, not this one that's still trying to figure it out. And I think a lot of people jump in really too soon.
I agree with you, but what I'll just say is remember to I'll just say anybody to give themselves some grace, because one, like we just said, you don't know what you don't know. And then two, is if you have started that process and then something triggers you, now you get to go into that mode where everything that you've been practicing, now you're executing, right? The breathing techniques, the meditation. Hey, you know what? You triggered me. The hard conversation. Maybe you didn't express yourself before, but now you're able to have those hard conversations and say, hey, look, asshole, stop doing that. that really pushes me over to whatever X, Y, and Z. So whatever it is, you always want to make sure it's a step forward, because we talk about growing. We talk about ceilings, especially when we start talking about, and minorities, and we start talking about, with women and those things about reaching those ceilings. And if you're in that uncomfortable place and you retreat, instead of looking at what that plan was, looking at what you practice and looking at what you can execute, then you're not going to break through that glass ceiling. And then you're not going to continue to grow, because you're sitting in that place of comfort, of anxiety, of whatever it is that situation is putting you through, and it's lacking problem solving skills and all those type of things. You're not going to grow. Yeah. So what I'll say is, even though you're going through that, take a pause. And hopefully you started, some type of self-evaluation, some type of process improvement, or you've contacted somebody like me, a coach, so that way we can help you out.
Yeah, that's big, because I had to do that. And you're right. For a long time, I did retreat. I'd get to that point where it got too uncomfortable. And I was just like, I'm not taking that step in that uncomfortableness. I'm good right where I am, and I would retreat. And so I got really good at the cha-cha. Take a step forward, take a step back.
And, right. Hands on your knees, hands on your knees. Yeah.
And then there comes a point where, like, one day you just look in the mirror and you're like, we gotta go. We gotta go through this. And so it's no fun, but I think we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the people around us in our lives that love us, because they deserve that healed, better version of us too. And but yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not easy, but some of the things that spawn from this, from adults, again, not only not healing, but not having those hard conversations is, excuse me, now you have kids who also start to exhibit those same personality traits. The narcissistic traits, no contact is what they're calling in the 2026, is where they
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Typically resulting from one or two of the narcissistic person, parents, and the situations that they're going through will typically result in the kids pulling no contact from one or the other. Because you got to think about in those situations, right? Typically what happens is one of the individuals in the relationship starts talking bad about the other person. And so then if they're talking bad about the other person in front of the kids, so now the kids are, because what I wanted to say earlier is what we talked about, also identifying, those issues is identifying boundaries, because that's one thing we haven't talked about. And that's the other thing, right? Is you allow all these things to happen. You allow yourself to feel like it is your fault for doing all these things wrong that somebody else may be saying, because there are no boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's something that you have to establish as well. And then when there's no boundaries between the parent and the child in those narcissistic households, then the parents and the child start to formulate a team against the other parent inadvertently. And so then now whatever that parent is saying in a negative aspect, that child is absorbing that information, because now that's your little broke ass best friend. It's not, you know what I'm saying? And y'all talking trash about the other parent, whether y'all going shopping together, going to get wings together, or whatever it is you guys are doing. And then they don't think about it. And you have to think about the things that we say too in our demographic. Most of the people being over 40 is the grandparents aren't like the grandparents we had. Right. And so then everybody keeps saying those type of things instead of having a conversation behind somebody else. It's just the backhanded things of saying how things aren't like they used to be.
Yeah, I just saw something on that. I think earlier today or yesterday on why aren't marriages lasting like our grandparents' marriages?
Right.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, because all your grandparents weren't out in the 90s, backing that ass up to juvenile, and then they're still doing the same thing in 2026 because they got that itch to want to go out there. And then all their friends are getting divorced, and they all just finding it easier to find the hive mind of let's support each other versus the family dynamic. It's not the family dynamic anymore. Yeah. It's more individuals out there trying to figure out what they can do, and then, complain about how the system is not taking care of them and everything else is not, conclusive to what they're doing. So yeah, nobody's taking accountability, and that's the other piece of it. It's easy to blame somebody else for something.
Yep. Nope. I stepped into it. I stepped into it. I saw it. I tried to get out, but I didn't try hard enough, and it took its toll. But that's why I love to talk about this topic, because I kept it quiet, and no one really knew. And so when you start talking about it, it's like, wait, what? And then you're the one that's, they were perfect. So to me, it's like, no, there's a lot of people that sit with this, and we shouldn't be shameful of it. We shouldn't beat ourselves up about it. It's something that we've gone through. But I think the more we talk about it, maybe that'll just be that little bit that someone needs to actually leave, or to get healing, or to make a better choice. So
no, absolutely. So outside of your marriage, right, would you say you ever felt responsible for somebody else's emotions or their behavior? Not your kids either, but maybe somebody in a work environment, maybe some, a different setting or something along those lines. Or if not, then, the kids, or the spouse.
Of course, I think my kids, that's just a given. But for me, it was my dad, actually. As a young child, he was an alcoholic, but I mean, he was like, could do no wrong in my eyes. And I felt, when he kind of started hitting a rock bottom, and I would go visit him, because by then he lived in Arizona, I was in Indiana. So growing up years, I could probably count the number of times I actually saw him until I became an adult and could make my choices to go out there on my own. But I felt sorry for him. I felt like I didn't want to hurt him. I felt like he needed me to lift him up. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know why. I don't want to call it pity, but I just felt sorry for him. And so I felt like I needed to do more. And I don't know if that's a responsibility, but when I would see him, I just wanted to make him known that he was loved and that accepted. And I was trying to do that for him when he was the parent. And he's one of the main ones that I can say I kind of felt like responsible for how he was feeling. And I honestly to this day don't know how early that came in or why that came in, but maybe you can tell me.
I can't tell you. I was going to
I'm like, honestly, people, what this is like me getting my therapy from Jamaal. Like,
no, right. $3.99.
There you go.
No, I was going to ask because you said that. Do you know what triggered that? Since the theme was going to be tonight about triggers, right? So, do you know what triggered you to think that or to feel that way? Or let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Did you what made you think by you doing what you thought you wanted to do would make him feel better? Let me give you some context.
Okay.
So my story. I was living out of my car, going through a rough situation since December 3rd, right before the holidays. Mm-hmm. And then the holidays came and gone. And then what was told to me via messages was, you have a bunch of gifts, at a different location. You can come pick them up. And I'm like, shit, I didn't want no gifts. All I wanted was a hug and an I love you. You know what I mean? All the shit that I've done and been through, and then you trying to give me a $20 gift, that doesn't account to the things that I've built and I've put into the love and everything that I wanted to give out to my kids. And then in return, I didn't want a $20 t-shirt. I just wanted a hug. You know what I mean? To feel a warm embrace as I was going through a rough time. So obviously you wouldn't know that, but I'm just asking you because you wanted to, again, I guess, trying to provide something for somebody that we think will make them happy. Mm-hmm. Versus, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, while you were talking, I really think because when I was very close with my dad, I was really young. Okay. So by the time that they separated and he left, I was only 8. 8. I think 8. But I almost feel like he may have tried to tell me how much he wanted to be in my life and that he was, having to move out or, you know what I'm saying? I almost feel like that's in there somewhere where he was trying to make me know that it wasn't his choice or it wasn't his doing, but he was gonna have to go, even though he got married and had so. But I feel like knowing that I felt so sorry for him.
Right.
Like I felt so sorry for him. And I remember this is like an opening chapter in my book where I was carrying boxes out to his Corvette trunk, helping him move, not realizing that he was going all the way across the country. I thought he was just going back to his apartment, but he was like literally moving to get married. And I was going to have like 2 step siblings. And it's like, was nobody going to tell me this? But I think at that point, I think while you were asking that, I really feel like there was parts in there that it was like, oh, woe is me from his perspective. And so as a child, I felt so sorry for him and my heart broke for him. And I thought, oh my God, how can my mom make this decision? Because everything was my mom's fault. Okay.
Right.
And So actually that I really feel is why all the years I felt sorry for him. I felt like maybe if I, just love him more, or if I tried to do more, maybe he would feel better. And it's like, wow, because that really wasn't the case at all. But I carried that. I carried that like my whole life.
Listen, that's is it's freaking hilarious, but it's not, right? So because what it goes back to, furthering that point about communication, effective communication, is because and I say effective, right? Because communicating, you could have thought that you were communicating by saying, hey, I love you, I'm trying to help you out. He's like, yo, this shit ain't working. Hey, listen, we need to figure out something out. Nobody's picking up on the vibe, but as in 2026, one of the things, again, as a generation, our generation maybe overcorrecting from how we were raised, and then our kids, everybody's sitting back trying to figure out why our kids are the way they are, looking at us as adults and how we overcorrected and reacted possibly too much to the way we were raised. As we reflect on things, being a latchkey was beneficial. You know what I mean? Certain things.
I'm proud of being a latchkey.
Right.
I'm gonna start wearing the key again. I'm gonna bring it back in fashion.
Okay, and you make a T-shirt, I want $10 off of it. But yeah, so. But again, it's about perspective, and I think as a lot of us are having kids now, grandkids, and I think we're a little bit more open-minded than possibly the generation before us. I think it definitely opens the conversation more to be able to start having these conversations and healing relationships. And I think that's the biggest thing is just bridging the gap, really. Sit down with somebody. You know what? Back in the day, you used to sit down with somebody who was older than you. You would have to interview them, talk to them, learn something about them, whether it was boring, or not. But it taught you the perspective and the respect of your elders and what they did and how they contributed before you. And I think right now, that's the biggest disconnect, is nobody gives a shit about what's going on out there.
No.
And then here we are, trying to piecemeal things together. And then, it's like they don't really care. No. So we're trying to course correct things that has possibly went too far to the right. And so what would you say as far as for people thinking things are their fault, being able to communicate or the lack thereof? Now in 2026, you got ChatGPT, you got so many cheat codes, everybody should be able to do everything great, right? Why is everybody still leaving in these relationships?
I honestly feel like, I remember, my dog is thinking it's like time to go out.
We got 17 minutes. You all right?
I remember years ago being told, like as a young adult, that going into relationship, and I will never forget this, of no compromise. Like you should never compromise.
Oh yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll never forget that, because I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, shouldn't it all be like, I don't know if compromise is the right word, but you can't come in with a partner and think like it's all this way, and then they're thinking it's all this way, and no one is wanting to like blend and merge. So I always kept that in my mind. And I think we're there. I think people feel like I don't have to change nothing. You should want me as I am. And if you can't deal with it, then
kiss my ass. You're right. Yeah.
But also because we've come just as society. I mean, we're a global reach now. Okay. Back in the day, you only knew who was in your neighborhood. Like now we can meet somebody from across the globe and start having a conversation, and our attention spans have gotten so much shorter. Like if you don't get someone's attention within like seconds, you're scrolling on to the next. And I think we're taking all of that and we're applying it to our human relationships. And it like, you know what? We might have to compromise. You know what? It might not be happy every day. You know what? It might be uncomfortable, but nobody wants to see anything that is wrong with them, or they just don't have the patience. And they're like, nope, I'll find, what's out there. And it's like, it's really sad. Like, it's honestly, it's really sad because I've seen it. And I don't know. I just think we've gotten really programmed to think that there's so much
Something better that's out there.
And you know what? Maybe there is, but give yourself a chance with where you are. Sit in it for a minute. If you have to change some things, change some things. If something makes you uncomfortable, it's there for a reason. And instead, people are like, nope, I'm good and I'm moving on. And I'm not saying break your boundaries and change who you are for someone. But I'm not saying that. That's what I did. Don't do that. But you also have to be real, and that a really good person is not going to make you happy all the time. Like, it's not going to be perfect all the time. And I think people just, the moment one thing looks off, they just jump and they're ready to move on. So
no, those are great points. Especially again, shaking and moving and going around to these different locations and talking to these men in different places.
Yeah.
It was difficult at first, but now, starting to get people to open up a little bit. And that seems to be the common consensus, especially like you just said, with being able to go online, you can click on somebody's face anywhere on the planet and have a conversation, and it can be more stimulating than the person that's sitting next to you, because the person sitting next to you has probably told you something that they don't like, and you don't want to fix it.
Nope.
Instead of fixing it, instead of doing self-evaluating, instead of taking a look at yourself or look at your situation and trying to figure out what's going on, people just rather pick up and move and go to do something else completely different.
Yep.
And they'll say things like, well, I'm working on a new part of my life. And that's what's so funny is the person that's out there on the receiving end, they should be asking, what the hell happened to the first part of your life? If you out here trying to do something different, what happened to the other half of it, and why weren't you successful at it? Because you would do the same thing in business. You wouldn't invest in that. You know what I mean? You wouldn't. Yeah. If it was a restaurant and they went out of business and they were like, hey, listen, we just trying to have new burgers on the second part of our grand opening. But what the hell happened to the first part of the grand opening? You're not gonna go back and keep buying burgers from that place. Yeah. And that's what happens is people, they separate, they compartmentalize and think relationships are different, and they aren't. They're the same across the board, because no matter what you do in this, whatever this environment that people think they're in, you have to have relationships, and you have to, it's based off trust, it's based off, core values, it's based on ethics, it's based on some type of practices. You got to have something to stand on and believe in. You can't just change and pivot and move whenever you want to. Well, you can. It just may not be as successful, and it may not land you in the trajectory that you want to be in.
The way that I see it too, and I'm sure that you've seen this, there's a graph, kind of like a diagram, but it's in the corporate world. Okay. So when a corporation is getting ready to implement a new process or change, you can actually see where the team gets all excited. They're like looking, hope is on the way. And then you start implementing some of these changes, and then it's like morale goes down. It's uncomfortable. Nobody likes what's going on. And it's like, so a lot of times when it dips down, instead of continuing to go through and then actually see the result, when it gets hard, a lot of times that leader can't handle all of the unhappiness. So they pull it and they think it didn't work. So let's try something else. And so they're constantly putting their people on the same dip, and they stop at the same point. Well, to me, that's a relationship. You have to give yourself that time to get to know the ins, the outs, those habits that drive you nuts, the things that in the beginning were so cute, and now you're like, oh my God, I can't even handle that. Well, you've got to give yourself to get through that to be able to like come on the other side, or you don't. But at least give yourself the opportunity to see what it's there to do. But people are so quick to jump. Even I think Yada on here said people are coming into relationships with 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and almost like coming in waiting, almost like I'll be with you until you screw up one time, then I'm out. And it's
And
like,
that's
oh
where the
my God.
narcissism comes into play.
I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Like, what
Yeah.
the heck is that? Nobody's perfect like that. So
now nobody's perfect, but what happens is, again, the culture we live in, we talk about having contingency plans. We're talking about having, a plan B. And then what happens is people in these relationships, they've changed. People, they just, for whatever reason, people they don't feel like they have to be together forever. That's completely up to them, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But like Yara said, it's to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. That's where the disrespect comes into play. You know what I mean? Because now it's about intent. Yeah. You've never had intent, right? And that's, again, by talking to men that's out there, they've been with women, for over 10 years, and 5 years, they had a separate bank account for an exit strategy or exit plan. They had these type of things. And I'm not knocking somebody for having an exit strategy or exit plan, but maybe perhaps communicate that with your partner so you both have one. So that way you both leave amicably away from the relationship versus somebody trying to figure out they have one leg up, one over the other person. Because again, that's where that narcissistic, personality and those traits come into play, is because now you're trying to plan for something else. You're trying to plan for a failed scenario. If you're planning for an exit strategy, the beliefs would be that you're not necessarily planning for this relationship. You're planning for the next, you know what I mean? And that's what happens is a lot of times that people do that. And then again, talking to a lot of men out there, they can be in a relationship with the woman, and then you got a group of women that's out there, and they got a group that's going to now these brunches, and they going to all these different things. And instead of the group of women that's getting together and building social clubs and on how to have a strong family, a strong network, they're building, hey, let's fuck that. Let's go out to brunch. Let's go do these things. Let's go do that. And, right. Everybody's at the Jay-Z concert this weekend, Jay-Z 30. You know what I mean? And kind of getting it in. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, if you have that conversation so that both people can plan accordingly, then I think it's okay. But I think it's a disadvantage and it's selfish if you're the only one doing it, because again, it's about intent. If you don't have that conversation to say, hey, you know what, let's both plan in case this doesn't work out so we don't go into debt. You know what, let's try to do everything we can, but let's just be realistic. Life be life. And if this doesn't work, then we have a plan B for everybody, the kids, the trust, the this, the that. But it's just about self-preservation, self-sabotage, everything that the word self in it is what it has to deal with.
Yeah. And I think, I think that's where we can all improve a bit is, self-love, putting yourself first, like making yourself the priority. We should do that so we can be the best version of ourselves for everyone, coworkers, peers, relationships, like whatever. But that's not being self-centered, and that's not being selfish. And again, it does lean to respect. I just think, if we actually treated each other with respect, a lot of this wouldn't even be. And so that's the piece that's probably missing more than anything. It's just truly caring about the genuine well-being of the other person and being respectful. That's gone. Well, it's not gone. It's not gone, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I got what you,
People look at respect like a word that was only used for our grandparents' days. Like respect to me.
It was a great song back in the 70s. That was
it. Right. But to me, it's like, people talk about love and relation, like all of this stuff. And to me, you can't have love if you don't have a genuine respect for someone. To me, that's how you love someone more, by the respect that you can show them. And there's just a lot of disrespect, just period, and I don't know how we get it back. And I don't know how that conversation looks like for you, if you are starting to talk to somebody, how early do you start having these types of conversations? Like, you know, a lot of people are like surface level, and then you ease into deeper conversations. If you dive in too deep too soon, that probably freaks somebody out. If you wait too long, then it's like, I mean, how do you even know how to gauge when to start having these types of conversations?
Listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's a limit or a timing on it. You know, like these young folks say, it's all about the vibe. I mean, you know, if you go out on a date and everything is going right, you just kind of going with what works. You ain't necessarily, you know, just I'm gonna wait for this to Thursday or Friday. You know, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you just kind of going, hey, look, this is working out. I'm loving it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean. You just keep
Yeah.
going, keep going. But I think the conversation piece, and I don't think you can do anything without having a conversation. Is again, it's all about the intent because like you just said, it may be too soon, but if I let you know up front, hey, this is my intention,
Mm-hmm.
I might not necessarily go about it the right way, but just know that I definitely have the best intentions and, you know, allow me some grace, you know, as I will allow you some grace as, you know, you may have been in situations or relationships before, but as we know, each person is different. You
Yes.
know what I mean? What worked with that person definitely ain't going to work with me. You
Right.
know,
We got Gina on here saying never. I'm never looking for someone. You go, girl.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, yeah. Gina said she ain't never looking for nobody else. Don't worry about it, Gina. They finding you on social media, girl. They gonna find you. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So yeah, honestly, you know, I just think that's, you know, keeping all that stuff in perspective. So you know, I ain't gonna keep you too long. What would you say to someone tonight who still believes everything was their fault, no matter what we said? Talking about how the communication piece and it, and I'll just say this before you answer. It's about accountability. A lot of people don't like that A word, accountability. They like excuses. They like to provide, you know, any other reason on why that stuff didn't work out, other than just saying, you know what, my apologies. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I'll do it next time.
Yeah.
My apologies. You didn't tell me what you wanted. Maybe you can better help me understand and giving me a little expectation management, right? So
Yeah.
things along those lines. So for somebody who's feeling like they're carrying that and not having those conversations, what would you say to them?
Oh gosh. You know, avoiding them is only hurting yourself, honestly. You know, I used to be so afraid of that conflict or having that difficult conversation or upsetting someone, and looking back, it all happened anyway. So I think knowing that only something positive can come out the other side of it, even if it's a hard lesson, but something will come out of it. And so one of the things, and I will share this, one of the things that helped me is because I know that we think in pictures, and sometimes words kind of can get like they can mean different things to different people. And so there was one time where it just got really, really bad, and my husband came home, and it was one of the days that he just looked mad at the world, and the only thing I could think of to say was, did you have a rough day at work? And he said, well, you know, what the fuck do you think? And so it just took me back, and I thought, okay, I'm making dinner, and I can sit here and I can get pissed off, and or I can, that one time I said, I need you to sit down and I need you to listen to me for a minute, please. And I told him, I said, I want you to envision me like a little girl, and I'm twirling, and I got a pretty dress on, and my hair is curly with ribbons, and I got white shoes and white ruffle socks, and I'm, you know, in a gravel park, and the sun is shining, and I'm just happy. I'm twirling, and nothing's gone wrong in my day. And I said, and all of a sudden you come around and you just push me down. I didn't even see you coming. You just push me down and I fall and I'm in the gravel and I'm all dusty. My ribbons are coming untied. My new shoes are all scuffed up. My knees are bleeding. They're scraped. And I said, and I'm sitting there trying to think like, what the hell just happened? I said, and then I look up and you're reaching your hand out saying, well, I didn't mean that. I'm just kidding. Like, let me help you up. And I don't want you to touch me. And I said, that's what happens to me every day you come home and act like this to me. And he's like, I would never push you down like that. And I'm like, but every time you come back and say like, well, what the fuck do you think? That's what you're doing. So sometimes we have to be able to see how it's actually making us feel so we can paint the picture for somebody else to actually understand it. And I will tell you that after that conversation that we had, we used things like that. Like it would be like, no, you're like spitting balls in my hair right now. You're doing. I mean, we had to paint the picture because words just didn't do it. It was
you overcooking my grits.
Yeah.
So maybe if somebody's in a relationship or they're struggling of feeling like, well, I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did hurt me. I didn't mean to hurt you. Like if it's not going anywhere, I know for me, I actually had to paint a picture of what it felt like for him to get it, and that really did help after that. So,
all right, ma'am. So I'm gonna ask you just because you said that. So. And just to tie a bow on it,
mm-hmm.
what gave you the knowledge to paint that picture, right? Because we talk a lot about contacting professionals. We talk a lot about contacting people to help you out. Where did you get the knowledge to use that known to the unknown for that individual?
I think just the knowing that that words, they really can mean different things to different people. And depending on someone's emotional state, a word might mean something different at that time. Just knowing that the words were not working, but I also know, and I'm not even sure from what training or where education came from, but knowing that we actually think in pictures. So if we say house, you're going to envision a home, a house, not like HOUSE on paper, right? So knowing that even when we think in a memory will pop up, even if it's a song or a smell, but we will see the memory. So so I know that that we can see things in our imagination very clearly. And but here's also what I knew. And this is what I've shared with people. If you can't paint a picture yourself of how it feels to you, there's no way you're going to get somebody to understand how you're feeling if you can't even describe it. So for instance, like sometimes there's people that, would say like, I feel like I'm all alone or I'm being ignored. And I was like the new kid at school that's sitting at the lunch table that nobody wants to sit with. Like, what do you mean alone? Like, tell me is what it looks like to you. How does that feel? And
what's your version of alone? Give me your perspective.
Yeah. And I think in relationships, if we could paint the picture a little bit of what that feels like in something that someone else can actually see also in their mind, the way that you're describing it, I think that opens up a lot of conversation.
No, yeah, absolutely. Because, for those auditorial, visual learners and, those different things. And great point. Yara, the dating pool has spits in it, baby. You just got to figure it out.
Oh, and Gina says, what did she say? I would do it, but the minute I would start to talk about my feelings, he would tune out immediately because he thought it would be a nagging lecture. So
yeah, and before we leave, and I'll just say, because one thing that women always say to men is tonality. Right. So it may sound like a nagging lecture if every time you talk, you use a certain voice and it comes off that way. And I'm only saying that again because I just talked to a group of men last week and told them about how much women express tonality being, such a large issue. Hey, so before we get out of here, I just want to say, hey, I'm hoping you had a great birthday this weekend. And if you want to talk a little bit about how the marathon went, just go ahead and touch on that a little bit.
Thank you. Yes. So we just came off of a 5th annual Christmas in July streamathon where we brought guests on from around the world. And it was amazing. I mean, we had like 3 guests from Dubai, Australia, Ukraine, who actually talked about what it's like to go to sleep at night and hear the bombs going off. And then they meet every morning and they're just hoping that they can see, you know, their friends and stuff. And it just kept things in perspective. And so it's our journey of hope. But that was amazing. 5th annual. We'll be doing it again next July. So if anybody wants information on that. And then, then I celebrated my birthday. So I feel like I haven't slept in a week. But I had to turn 52 and I went out with my son and everybody kept saying I was really like 25. So I'm like, okay, I'll take it. I'll have another shot. Thank you.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So no, it was great. Thank you.
Hey, congratulations. We just want to make sure, you know, on behalf of your own network, we was giving you your flowers. Congratulations. Keep doing your thing. Yep. And just go ahead and wrap it up. So you can take responsibility for your part in a relationship without carrying responsibility for everything. You are not responsible for someone else's choices. And maybe tonight is the night you finally put down the blame you've been carrying. Yes. Next episode, why do so many people say, but they're so nice, while you're left trying to explain what the hell happened behind closed doors? This is Silent No More. Real conversations, real people, real healing. We out of here.
Silent